If you want the Raiders to fire Josh McDaniels, hit that subscribe button. The amount of content that I'm going to be churning out over the next 24, 48 hours, hell, I feel like the entire football season until this team realizes that he's not the right man for the job, I'm going to be screaming at the top of my lungs, it's time to fire Josh McDaniels. And if you agree with that, hit that subscribe button. Hey, Mark Davis, it's time to wake the hell up. Josh McDaniels has never been a good head coach, and he's never going to be a good head coach. If you haven't seen the viral video on my Twitter, at MitchellRentz365, there was a Raiders fan at SoFi Stadium screaming at Mark Davis, I almost said it, F McDaniels, because it's just so much frustration going on. But what's even more frustrating is that everybody that bleeds silver and black, or at least the smart ones up here, knew that it was never going to work with McDaniels. Hell, I made this video 10 months ago. If you don't believe me, it's on the channel. It's on all over my social media. And history should have told Mark Davis that McDaniels will not rebuild the Raiders. In fact, he is doing the exact same thing that he did in Denver. McDaniels doesn't build anything, right? And I've heard everybody say Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, guess what? Rome at least made progress. I have never seen another human being take a football team that made the playoffs at 10-7 and then totally just rip them apart from all the way top, all the way down, and expect people to just sit back and say, okay, this is the McDaniels way. The McDaniels way is absolutely terrible. The other thing that's frustrating, and the reason why I knew that McDaniels was never going to be a good head coach and why I know he's never going to be a good head coach, is because he doesn't change anything. He just tries to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. He doesn't make adjustments on the field. He doesn't make adjustments off the field. I tweeted this out on February 1st. This is way before the Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo. If the Raiders sign Jimmy Garoppolo or trade for Mac Jones, I am going to riot. I said that because deep down I felt like the Raiders were going to do what the Raiders do. McDaniels going to do what McDaniels does, go out and get his guy. But I knew that Jimmy Garoppolo was washed. I knew that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't going to be the right fit for the Las Vegas Raiders when you had so many other opportunities to get other quarterbacks to help this team. Then, when news came out that the Raiders were going to end up hiring Josh McDaniels, I tweeted this out on January 27th. You can check the dates. If you don't want the Raiders to hire Josh McDaniels, then click that retweet button. This tweet now has close to 3,000 retweets. When Raider fans are smarter than the people making decisions inside of that front office, it's what drives the nation, I think, the most crazy. McDaniels stinks. Everything that he has done since being named the head coach, I can't wrap my mind around it. The only positive thing that McDaniels has done was he traded for Davante Adams, and he was able to get a star receiver. But McDaniels is such a, I'm going to call him an asshole. We'll just try to be there. And he's got such a God complex that imagine trading for Davante Adams for a first and a second round pick, and all Davante asks you to do is, hey, put me in the loop for the whole quarterback discussion. Doesn't put him in the loop. That's how insane the idea of having Josh McDaniels is as a head coach. So if you want the Raiders to move on from McDaniels, if you knew that McDaniels was going to be a bad hire, I want you to click the like button right now. I know that not every single person can super chat, but this show is about giving the nation a voice, and I want Mark Davis to hear the anger. I want the Raiders from the top to bottom to understand that we are a passionate fan base, and we are allowed to get upset, especially when all this shit has been going on for as long as it has. So the easiest way to get loud is when we all rally together. So the more people that chant fire McDaniels, the more people that click like on this video, the more people that share this video, the louder our voice is going to be heard. I knew that McDaniels was going to be a bad hire because, let's face it, he is never, ever going to change. And if you haven't been able to pick up on that recently, then I don't know what to tell you. I said it the moment he got hired. I've been on other shows from here and there, and I'm going to continue to say it. I have zero faith in Josh McDaniels, and I will never have faith in McDaniels because I knew that he was going to go with the Patriot Way. Newsflash, the Patriot Way has never worked without Tom Brady. You think about all the Belichick disciples. Go on Google, look up Belichick coaching tree. Look up past Patriot coaches. Everywhere that they have tried to go and everywhere that they have tried to replicate the Patriot Way, it doesn't work. Why? because you don't have the greatest quarterback that has ever played. I know that kills Raider fans because of the Tuck rule, but it's the truth. When you don't have Tom Brady, your job's not going to be as easy. Go ask Bill Belichick, who apparently is the greatest head coach of all time. Bill Belichick with Tom Brady, 219 wins, 64 losses, obviously all the Super Bowl wins. Bill Belichick without Tom Brady has got a losing record at 80-91. I do think that Bill is one of the best defensive minds that we've ever had, but Bill is still trying to do what he did when he had Tom Brady. And guess what? You don't have Tom Brady. You don't have that offense anymore. Yes, the Patriots defense is still legit, but as soon as McDaniels and Ziegler realize, unfortunately they're never going to realize, that you don't have Tom Brady right now at quarterback. So everything you did in New England all those years ago, it's not working. And instead of trying to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, you got to go and try to do something else, or else you're going to get fired. So Mark Davis, I'm telling you this. Wake up. I am begging you. Raider Nation deserves better. Like, my mental health, I know a lot of Raider fans, man, the mental health right now, it's not great. What exactly Josh McDaniels is doing right now with the Raiders is exactly what he did in Denver, because Josh only knows one way, and it's the Patriot way, and that's all that he can do. And if it doesn't work, he doesn't care. He thinks it's everybody else's fault. He puts blame on everybody else. He deflects. He sits up there at the podium, and he'll talk for 10 minutes about absolutely nothing. It's actually an art at this point, watching McDaniels address the media. So coming up here, I'm going to explain to you what McDaniels did in Denver, and I'm going to show you he's literally doing the exact same thing to the Las Vegas Raiders. But I do got to take a little bit of a
whoop, whoop, whoop. Sponsor alert, sponsor alert.
Huge shout out to today's sponsor, Game Time. And if you're like Mitch, I don't want to watch the Raiders. Well, luckily for you, when you head out to Vegas, you can go to a comedy event, which I'll tell you right now, maybe the best comedy event in Las Vegas is the Raiders. If you want to go to a concert, you can do that. I don't recommend Taylor Swift, but hey, her tickets would probably be even pretty cheap here on the Game Time app. So Raider Nation, create an account and redeem code Raiders Chat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and a whole lot more. It is the perfect app for buying tickets when planning a visit to Las Vegas. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Raiders Chat for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code Raiders Chat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So to me, when I go out to Vegas, I like to just do whatever the heck I want. I don't like to plan too far in advance, which I get, and I like that because I have the flexibility to do whatever I want. But maybe one of my favorite features that Game Time has is this look right here. Not many apps show you all the different spots in terms of how much the tickets are, how good the prices are, and then exactly like what you're going to be able to see when you're sitting down. That's one of the biggest game changers that they have. And if you want to get started, promo code Raiders Chat. Link's going to be available for you guys down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. So let's show you what Josh McDaniels did with the Denver Broncos when he was the head coach from 2009 and 2010, because he's doing the exact same thing here to the Las Vegas Raiders. So in 2009, was named the head coach. The Broncos started 6-0. For those of you that don't know, the Broncos started 6-0. McDaniels got in trouble for cheating, and then ever since then, he has struggled in the National Football League. The Broncos finished the season with an 8-8 record, and they just simply couldn't make the right corrections. In 2010, the Broncos started at 3-9 with McDaniels. He ended up getting fired, and he lost the team. Like, you look at all the old players that talk about McDaniels, Aqib Talib, Brandon Marshall. We got a hell of a Brandon Marshall quote coming up here. Players could not stand him. And it's only a matter of time before somebody on the Raiders works up enough courage and they say, guess what? We never liked Josh McDaniels. And it's going to happen once they do finally realize that he's a shitty head coach, and once they do finally realize that, hey, we got to move on from this guy. There's going to be players coming out left and right saying that we didn't like him. But here's the other funny thing, right? Because remember, McDaniels is a guru. After firing McDaniels in 2010, the following year, the Broncos not only went to the playoffs, they won a playoff game. So in one season, one turnaround, you go from being a 3-9 football team, a terrible football team, all you do is you replace your head coach, and you go out there and make the playoffs and win a playoff game. I think the Raiders could do the exact same thing because the Raiders right now have enough talent on this team, especially on offense, to be able to put up some points, and they can't put up any points. Back in 2021, the Raiders were 10-7 and made the playoffs under Rich Bisaccia. Rich Bisaccia might not know the X's and O's like Josh McDaniels, but Rich Bisaccia could get a group of men to rally behind him because he cares about the name on the back. All Josh McDaniels cares about is X's and O's and a number. McDaniels is the type of head coach that refers to players as numbers. Rich Bisaccia is the type of coach that refers to them as players and actually gets to know them. Las Vegas, I don't care what McDaniel says. I don't care what Ziegler says. They planned on winning in 2022. You don't trade for a Devontae Adams. You don't go out and sign a Chandler Jones. You don't give Derek Carr the contract that they did. You don't make Darren Waller the highest paid tight end in the league. You don't give Hunter Renfrow the type of deal that they did. You don't give Max Crosby the type of contract extension they did. If you're not planning on winning football games, here's the cold hard fact. They tried to win games. Their plan didn't work. And instead of changing it and instead of addressing some of the shit that they could have addressed this offseason, what does Josh McDaniels do? I got 12 draft picks. I have all this money in free agency. Instead of going out and trying to really rebuild this defense, I'm going to try to make myself look better. I'm going to spend more money on the offensive side of the football than on the defensive side of the football and still have one of the worst offenses in the National Football League. Josh McDaniels sucks. And if you don't believe me, well, guess what? I got more examples coming up here on today's show, sponsored by Game Time. McDaniels can't make adjustments, and it's honestly funny at this point. And I hate saying that because when I watch the Raiders, man, it is the most pure joy that I have. When the Raiders are winning, dude, it is like the greatest feeling in the world. And sorry, Alex, but I love watching the Raiders, man. I love hanging out with the nation. And it's true. Like, when the Raiders are winning, it's too good to be true. But the inability to make adjustments, it's just going on and on. And here's just a short example. Right now, the Raiders are tied for 7th in terms of points by quarter. This probably doesn't surprise you. The Raiders are 31st in points in terms in the second quarter and the third quarter. Why? Because other NFL head coaches know exactly what McDaniels is going to do. We know what he's going to do. Whatever that game plan is in the first quarter, he's going to just keep trying to do it over and over and over and over again. Defensive coordinators, other good head coaches, make adjustments, and then the Raiders can't score in the second quarter. The Raiders can't score in the third quarter. And the only reason why that they're tied for 17th is because garbage time points against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we'll call it a garbage time touchdown maybe a little bit later in that game yesterday. I mean, overall, though, here's where the numbers do not lie. Mark Davis, wake up. Josh McDaniels can't make adjustments. Let's go to the next one. He continually throws players under the bus, and I just don't believe anything that McDaniels says. Like, when you can't have a head coach, like, think about from a parental standpoint. Think about from a teacher standpoint. Think about from anybody that a player looks up to. I don't believe a word that comes out of McDaniels' mouth. Think about it. I mean, he was like, oh, Darren Waller is going to be a big part of this team. 2 weeks later, ends up shipping him off. There is nothing that he says that I can say, you know what, that's a guy that I'm going to rally behind. And yesterday, after the Raiders lost, I get it. Aidan O'Connell did not play well, but that's your hand-picked quarterback. You put him in that situation because you decided to go out and sign a quarterback that we all know has a lot of injury history. I get it. Concussion's different. But Jimmy Garoppolo is still, I would consider, very injury-prone at QB, and you put your rookie quarterback in a tough spot. And instead of backing him up, you said this. Playing quarterback in our league starts with taking care of the football. I thought he adapted to the game a little bit as it went on, and we'll take every opportunity to learn from the mistakes that we made as a team. And I'm sure he will also, as a quarterback, and try to get better from it. Is McDaniels 100% wrong in what he's saying here, that Aidan made some mistakes? No doubt about it. But instead of him just saying, you know what, Aidan's a rookie, he had a really tough spot there, instead of saying, hey, you know what, I made the wrong play call, he threw his rookie under the bus. And I'm sorry, that's the type of shit where you're going to lose a locker room to. Like, it's just a cold, hard fact. You're going to lose a locker room when you do that type of shit. So then, my personal opinion is this on Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels will never be a good head coach because he's not a leader of men. This is the perfect example. He throws Aidan O'Connell under the bus instead of taking some blame. if you want to blame Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, hell, even Derek Carr for these mistakes, that's fine because they're veterans. But throwing your hand-picked rookie under the bus is why the Raiders should fire Josh McDaniels. Now, I'm not the only person that has an opinion around this team, and I think right now, Raiders fans are kind of spoiled in a good way because I'm on YouTube. I look at a lot of other content people here. I think Chat Sports does an amazing job, but the amount of really good content creators around the Raiders, I mean, it's out there. And when I see other people who I respect and they give their opinion on situations, when you have so many people that think the exact same way, guess what? It's probably because that's the correct way to think. And my guy Tristan Kuhn on Twitter, he said this: the quarterback you sign because he was your guy still leads the league in interceptions despite missing a week. O'Connell got sacked 7 times, and the game could have gone a lot worse after the first half. Play call to the end of the game was horrible and puts a young QB in a horrible spot to make a throw that he simply isn't ready to make in the NFL yet. That's what Tristan Kuhn had to say. He also said, it's weird behavior to ruin the confidence of your quarterback who just had a debut go about as bad as possible. Could O'Connell hold on to the ball more? Sure. Did the offensive line do their job? No. Did the play calling work? No. It's weird behavior, and I totally agree with it. Why would you already try to throw your guy under the bus when you know that he's sitting there and he's going, man, I feel terrible for that interception? It was his NFL debut, and Aidan was not good. A good head coach puts his arm around his QB and says, you know what? That's on me. Instead, he stands up at the podium and he shreds him to pieces. It's a weird behavior, and only people who have no idea how other people feel and how other people think do that type of shit. Josh McDaniels can't lead. Then I saw Kenny King Jr., another guy. He said this: imagine taking a rookie quarterback who you've had inactive all season, throwing him into a game last minute against a rabid Khalil Mack, who has a vendetta against the Raiders, who had a few mistakes with ball security, but held his own and played with poise despite of it, and throwing him under the bus in your presser because you can't own up to the fact that you can't game plan the construction of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Kenny, I totally agree. And if you guys want the nation's voice to be heard, the theme of today's show is I want the Raiders, Mark Davis, to hear the nation. So when I first started the show, I said, hit that subscribe button if you want Josh McDaniels fired. The next thing I asked you to do, click that like button if you want Josh McDaniels to be fired. Then the next thing I'm going to say is, if you want Josh McDaniels to be fired, click that share button. It is the arrow underneath here, posted on Twitter, posted on Facebook. Any opportunity you get at the Raiders, make sure Mark Davis sees his name because I can't say it loud enough. The Raiders need to fire Josh McDaniels. Let's go to the next one here. He's not a leader of men, and we've kind of already hit on this one a little bit. But you know what, Mitch? You've never played in the NFL. You're not a player. All the reports that we see from Raiders players that, we like Josh McDaniels, which I would say, okay, what do you expect them to say? It's only a matter of time before a current Raiders player, once McDaniels is gone, says, that guy's a nightmare. You know who's not afraid to say it? A past Josh McDaniels player, and he now also does some television. This is what Brandon Marshall had to say about McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is definitely not suited to be a head coach. Absolutely not, because he doesn't know how to lead people. You can have all the X's and O's in the world, but when you go into a losing locker room, the first thing you have to do is to be able to get to the players' minds and their hearts, and he's not capable of doing that. He's not capable of doing it. Like, when I listen to what he says as a press conference, imagine that, but now you're a Raiders player and you got to deal with that every single day. I guarantee you that he is an extremely smart human being. He's probably that teacher that is a super smart teacher, but he doesn't have the ability to teach. He's the type of head coach that's like, I know what I'm talking about, and he just gets frustrated at you for not knowing what he's talking about because he doesn't have the ability to be able to teach you what he's talking about. The final reason, and this is the biggest one here, Josh McDaniels might have the biggest God complex that I've ever even seen. And if you don't know what a God complex is, it's essentially you think that you do no wrong, that everything that you do is great, that if you touch anything, it's going to grow. He can turn, I don't know, shit to gold, as Jeremy just whispered in my ear. And that's what a God complex is. And it's a problem because I hate to break it to you, you are far from it. And the only way that you're ever going to be a successful head coach is if you realize that you're going to make mistakes. Everybody in life makes mistakes. And until McDaniels can sit up there and realize that he does make mistakes, dude's just a clown. So in conclusion, Josh McDaniels stinks. In his last 43 games as a head coach, he is an outstanding 12-31. So since McDaniels has been caught cheating with the Denver Broncos as a head coach, he is 12-31. He was bad with Denver, he was bad with the Raiders last season, and he's bad yet again with the Silver and Black. Guess what? He's not a good head coach. He's never been a good head coach. He's never going to be a good head coach. I knew at the moment that the Raiders hired him, and I begged Mark Davis to not do it, to not hire this clown. Unfortunately, we're stuck with him, and that's frustrating. So I got two more things to say, and then I'll let you guys get out of here. When the Raiders do finally realize that this is not the right man for the job, they're going to fire him. When he does get fired, I will be live on this show for 24 hours straight. I don't care when it happens. I don't care if I don't have a producer here. I'll be live on the Raiders Report 24 hours straight celebrating it. Now, I know a lot of y'all are like, Mitch, you get loud, you say fire McDaniels a lot. Well, guess what? I've already put out a video. I've put out a bunch of McDaniels replacement videos. So if you want to go check out my top candidates to replace McDaniels next season, and then also some replacements for this year because they will have to promote somebody, here's the thumbnail to the video. It's down in the comments. It's going to be down in the description of today's show. McDaniels will get fired. Here are some replacements to at least keep in mind. Before I leave you guys again, here is our live schedule for this upcoming week. I'm going to be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. On Thursday night football showdown between the Bears and the Commanders. I'm going to be live for that one, but that's an important game. We're rooting for Chicago in that game. Every Raider fan alive should be rooting for the Chicago Bears because if they win this game, I believe the Raiders would then have the #1 overall pick. Root for the Bears in that game. Then on Sunday, the Chiefs and the Broncos do not play each other, but I'm going to be live on Sunday, and we're going to be rooting against the Denver Broncos, and we're going to be rooting against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then Monday, Raiders, Packers, Monday Night Football. I can't guarantee you a win, but I can guarantee you every single time that I'm live here on the show, I will strive to make sure that we have a good time. So even if the season sucks, we're going to do our best here to bring a lot of smiles, even if I got this crazy mustache.